Lace knitting is beautiful with open stitch work. We're featuring the Winter Lace Afghan from the Beginner's Guide to Lace Knitting with permission and courtesy from Leisure Arts. We'll be reading the pattern and the chart, plus working it up on the needles today on GoodKnit Kisses. You're watching part 2 of working the Winter Lace Afghan, and we're going to start by working our swatch. To get part 1, click on the link in the description below to walk through the entire pattern and learning how to read the chart. Welcome to GoodKnit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. While we work each row of the swatch, you're going to find, we'll pause on a screen where it has row 1 written and also the chart to better help you. So you'll want to pause on that. We won't stick around on that the whole time, and I'll refer to the directions off screen while we're working it. We're going to cast on 35 stitches. You can make it in long tail or knitted cast on. I'm going to go ahead and do a knitted cast on. For that video, click on the link in the description below, or for long tail, I'll have those videos available to you. I'm just doing this one because it's faster with making a swatch. So go ahead and do 35 stitches, pause your video, and I will join you when you are ready. See you in a moment. All right, we've got our 35 stitches. We're going to leave these stitch markers down here. We don't need them just yet. We're going to work row 1, which is knit 1, and then purl 1. So the seed stitch is knit 1, purl 1, all the way across until you have 1 stitch remaining, and then that will be knit. So let's work that again. Make sure to put your yarn to the back when you're knitting. Knit 1, yarn forward for purl, purl 1, and continue. If you don't put your yarn to the back and front correctly, you could get an extra stitch. So if you're not familiar with working back and forth between purl and knit, you'll need to remember to do that. All right, so continue knitting and purling all the way across and knit that last stitch, and we'll see you at the end of the row. See you soon. All right, we're coming to the end of row 1. Knit that last stitch and then turn your work over for row 2. And you've just knit a stitch, so there's a purl on the back, and you're going to knit the purls and purl the knits. It's exactly the same as row 1. So you're going to continue working rows 1 through 5 in seed stitch, and when you get to row 6, we are going to make a change. So if you need to know which is the right side row, you can put this down for a second and grab a stitch marker. This is the locking or removable stitch marker. I'm on a row 2 right now, so this is the wrong side. So I can flip it over, and on the right side, just stick it in a stitch like that. And so I'll know when I am on, when I've worked enough of these rows, you can keep track on another piece of paper. We're going to be on a wrong side, row 6, when we meet back up. All right, pause your video, and I will see you in a moment. Okay, so I've completed my 5 rows, and I know that the 5th one was a right side row, so I've got my stitch marker there. And we're going to begin by knitting the first 5 stitches in the seed stitch pattern. So we knit 1, purl the second, knit 1, purl the second, well, the 4th, and then knit the 5th one. Okay, and then you're going to pause and slip on one of your stitch markers. I'm going to put this yellow one on first. Okay, so we've got 5 in the seed stitch, and this will be our border on the right hand side, or actually it'll be on the left hand side, because when we flip this over, that'll be over there. All right, and then this is where we start working a reverse stockinette. We're going to be doing purl stitches all the way until we have 5 stitches left. So you're just going to start purling. And if you want a reminder on the purl stitch, let me do the next one really slow. Insert your needle into the front of the stitch, yarn over, and push that on through to the other side. Again, for slower videos, I've got tutorials down below, and we'll have the one on the purl stitch. All right, continue until you have 5 stitches left. Pause your video, and I'll see you there. Okay, I'm working it up to the last 5 stitches, And now we're just going to take our next stitch marker and slip it onto our needle and put the yarn to the back and knit that next stitch. So this is a seed stitch. We're going to knit because that's actually a purl back there before, and then the next stitch is a knit, so we're actually purling. So you're going to continue that pattern of knit, purl, and then you'll knit, purl, and then knit the last stitch. So because we have an odd number of stitches, it works out really well. So if you decide on this pattern, or any pattern for that matter, that has a seed stitch border that's like that, all you have to do is make sure and adjust that you have an odd number of stitches. So if you say, oh, I want a wider border or something more narrow, then you can add on 2 more stitches or take away 2 stitches. I just wouldn't do it any less than 3, okay, because it would look too short. Just like this one over here has a very short width on the border. I only had 2 of them wide, and you actually need more. So we've completed row 6, and we're going to turn over for row 7. Row 7 is where we will begin working our lace pattern, and we're actually combining the seed stitch, the lace pattern, and then we complete it with the end of the seed stitch. So you can't forget to do that, and that's why it's essential that you have these stitch markers on here to help jog your memory. So we see this stitch marker here, and we said, okay, we're going to work the seed stitch pattern in the first 5 stitches. So we knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, okay, and then knit 1, and then you're going to slide your stitch marker over. All right, now for any other rows in the pattern that we go over, I'm not going to show working the seed stitch because I think that you have that down. I'll show you at the end of this row finishing the seed stitch. All right, so we're going to work row 1 of our lace pattern. I'm going to put the directions back up on the screen so you're seeing the written pattern and the chart. So that first stitch we work is a knit stitch, and then we're going to start yarning over and do our first slip slip knit. All right, so let's begin. We've slipped over our stitch marker, knit that very first stitch. Okay, this is that +1. From here on over, this is where you're going to work your 12 stitches and then your 12 stitches again for the repeat. So we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to slip slip knit. So we slip as if to knit the first stitch, slip as if to knit the second stitch, then we're going to insert our needle into the front of these stitches, okay, the needle that we just took them off of, and then in the back needle we're going to yarn over, which turns this into, because right now you can see that the yarn's just kind of hanging out in front, but once we work this, it's actually going to lock the yarn over in. So we're going to use the back needle, yarn over, and pull through a stitch, okay, and then let those 2 stitches drop off of our other needle. So that works those 2 together, and it's going to lean to the left. That's an SSK, or left leaning decrease. Now we're going to continue on knitting 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Pause your video as you need. Okay. And now on the pattern, I'll throw that back up there for a second, and you can see that we have a knit 2 together, which is the right slanting decrease, and then a yarn over and a knit. All right, so here we go. We're going to do a knit 2 together. So we're going to go into the front leg of these first 2 stitches. So start at the second one, put it in the front of that leg of that stitch, and go into the first one there. Okay, so they're going through both of them. And we're going to yarn over into that needle in the back and pull through a stitch, and then let the old ones drop off. So those 2 drop off, and now we have a right leaning decrease. And we want to yarn over to add that extra stitch in there because we just decreased down, and we want to knit 1. All right, this is where we repeat our pattern. We are going to yarn over again and then do a slip slip knit. So slip, slip, put that needle back in and knit, and that's knitting in the back of the stitch. Slide that off, and we're going to knit 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, knit 2 together, putting that needle through both stitches, yarning over, pulling through, yarn over, and then knit the last stitch. When you're knitting your afghan, you've got a few more repeats across, and then when you complete that, you slide your stitch marker over and complete the seed stitch, starting again with the knit. Knit, purl, knit, purl, and a knit. You've got your first part of your pattern repeated correctly. Now, once you start doing a couple rows in, you won't need the stitch marker marking the right side, but you can leave it in if you want. Let's move on to row 2. Row 2 in all wrong side rows, purl across. Row 2 is on the wrong side, and it's all wrong side rows. So I'm not going to repeat this portion again. I'll just say do a wrong side row. So we'll work one wrong side row together, and I'll put that up on the screen so you can see it. That's how it's written, and then that's the chart. All right, so we're going to do the seed stitch. Don't forget to do that. Knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and knit the 5th stitch. Slide that marker, okay, and then we're going to work purl. So we put our yarn in the back. The stitch marker's in my way. All right, or yarn in the front, I'm sorry, yarn in the front, purl across to your stitch marker. You don't have to count these, but you are going to encounter where you had yarn overs. This is not a mess up. You will work this stitch. So just put your yarn in front of it. It's very loose. Yarn over, okay, and then push out a stitch on that other side. Let that fall off. Do the next stitch. So working the next stitch across. And then you'll hit another yarn over towards the end here, because remember we had some in between. It'll be different for each row, but wherever you have that yarn over, don't let it fall off. You're going to need that to build your next row. Okay, and remember, pause your video as you need. There was that other yarn over. You can see how it's a little bunchy right there. I promise it will work out. So we have 2 yarn overs next to each other where that repeat was in the middle. Of course, this is speaking about row 1. If you're pausing your video and using this for another even row or wrong side row, then your yarn overs will be in a different placement. Almost to the stitch marker. All right, slip it, and then put yarn to the back and begin knitting and working that seed stitch. Knit, purl, and knit. All right, pause your video to catch back up, and we're going to go on to row 3. Row 3 on the right side, you can see that first yarn over hole peeking through. And if you look across your row, you can see those here and all the way across. So you can really start seeing these knit stitches come through on yours. And we're going to work up to our stitch marker. I'm going to put the instructions at the end of the row to remind you if you need to pause and look at it. Slip our stitch marker, and we're ready for starting the first knit stitch of row 3. Okay, and then we're going to start where the asterisk is. So we are knitting a stitch, another yarn over like we did the row before, slip, slip, knit. So slip 1, slip 2, put that needle in and knit the back of that stitch. Okay, and so now you can see the yarn over from row 1 and the yarn over from row 2. You can see it start to lean to the left. You can really tell that that's going to the left now. We're going to knit 5 in between. Okay, and now we want to make it lean to the right, so we're going to do knit 2 together. Put through both of those stitches, yarn over and pull through, add that yarn over in there, and then knit the next stitch. So we're going to actually knit 1, and then we're going to knit 2 this time. And there you see you've got your yarn over from previous row and the one that you just did here. And now this is where that repeat is again. So you're going to knit 1, yarn over, slip, slip, knit. So slip, slip, knit those in the back of the loop. Okay, and now you can see that you've got a center line here with the yarn overs going in opposite directions. So you've got one leaning to the right and one leaning to the left, and this area here in the middle will just go straight up. So we've just done the slip, slip, knit to left leaning. So we want to work 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, same as before. Okay, and then this is the knit 2 together. Knit 2, yarn over, knit 2, 1, 2. All right, slip your stitch marker and knit the remaining of your row in seed stitch, and then work a wrong side row. Pause your video and I'll meet you back at row 5. And here are the instructions on the screen, and we'll move on to the 5th row. See you soon. So the 5th row changes a little bit in the way the directions are written, and we're just going to go through that. We're going to, again, knit our first stitch, okay, and then now comes the asterisk portion. We're going to yarn over, slip, slip, knit, okay, and then we're another yarn over, and then slip, slip, knit, right, and then knit 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what I just did is the written portion, if you looked at that, it had parentheses around the yarn over, slip, slip, knit, and then it said twice. So you did it twice. So on the chart, it's very easy to just read it across, but if you're reading it in shorthand, it has that on there. I'm putting it on the screen so you can see it, but it's got the directions with parentheses around it, and then we repeat that on the other side, but with the knit 2 together. So let's just continue that on. I did the 3 stitches here, and now you're going to see where we are knitting 2 together and yarning over, and there's parentheses, and then it says twice. So we knit 2 together, yarn over, and then do it again. Okay, and then we knit 1, and then repeat that whole thing again. So yarning over, slip, slip, knit, yarning over, slip, slip, knit, okay, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, okay, and then knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, and you should have 1 stitch left on your swatch, or at the end of your row if you're doing the Afghan. Now let me back up for just a moment. So now that you've got these repeats down, and you've got me as kind of a safety net to show you across this swatch here, you may notice that if you're doing this on your own, you might go, oh wait, where was that repeat? Okay, this is where extra stitch markers would come in handy. So I've got extra stitch markers here, and those are what you could use after a repeat section. So you have that knit 1 and then you have an asterisk. Well, you may not want to put a stitch marker in between these two here because that's kind of annoying. But once you get to those, the end of those 13 stitches, because that 12 plus 1, you might want to put a stitch marker right there. And then after you do the next 12, you put another stitch marker, and so on across the length of your afghan, because that will help you keep track of where you make that repeat. So that's just a little tip. I'm not going to put that in the sample here, but I do want to cover that earlier on in here. All right, so continue working your seed stitch, work your wrong side row, pause your video, and I will see you for the next row. See you soon. All right, row 7, you'll start seeing that where this middle of where these two have come together, these two stitches have come together, it's going out like this, and so it's getting closer to the yarn overs over here. So we have our right leaning decreases and our left leaning decreases slowly kind of creeping towards each other, because it's going to come to a point and then it'll go back out over on this side over here. Also, I added in a stitch marker here so you could see where that stitch repeats, so you can see me sliding that over when I reach to that point, if that will help you. All right, so you're going to knit the first stitch just as normal, that plus 1, and then knit 1 for our repeat, yarn over, slip slip knit twice. So, sorry, slip slip knit, yarn over twice. So I said that funny, but anyway, we yarn over, we slip slip knit, and then you do that again. So there's the yarn over, slip slip knit. Be sure and put that yarn over in between, and then work 1 stitch, and then we get to the other side where it starts moving them over in the opposite direction. So we're going to knit these two together first, and then yarn over, knit 2 together, and yarn over and knit 2. 1, 2. And because I have my stitch marker in here, you can see where that pattern is repeating. I just slip it over. Okay, so there's my first 13 stitches because of that plus 1, and then the rest of it is 12 stitches to this next stitch marker. So if you're doing your afghan, then you would have every 12 stitches, you would have a stitch marker to show you where those repeats happen. So repeating that section again, it's knit 1, yarn over, slip slip knit, and repeat that, yarn over, slip slip knit. Knit 1, knit 2 together, add that yarn over, knit 2 together, last yarn over, and knit 2, slip your stitch marker, make your seed stitch, work a wrong side row, pause your video, and I'll meet you back for row 9. See you soon. Row 9, as you can see on your screen, in the very middle of this row, you've got a SK2P. That's slip 1, knit 2 together, and pass a slip stitch over. So that's going to work these 3 stitches together here, right here. And basically, it's like a centered decrease. So we're working this row here, or this angle here to the right, and then we're working an angle to the left, and work them all together. So we're going to get up to that point, and you'll learn how to do this stitch, and it appears one other time in the 19th row. So it only occurs in the 9th and the 19th row. All right, so let's begin this row by knitting 1, just as usual, and then you want to work a yarn over and a slip slip knit, and you'll do that twice. Another yarn over, slip slip knit, and then in this case we're going to throw in another yarn over here because this center part decreases from 3 to 1. We need to add in an extra stitch on the left and right of it. So we're adding in that yarn over, and then we're going to slip this first stitch as if to knit, and then we're going to work the next 2 stitches together and a knit 2 together. Okay, so work those, and then we take this stitch that we slipped and we're going to lift it up and over. if you see this stitch next to it, leaning over it, you need to make sure you're not grabbing the yarn over. So this was kind of situated on the needles a little different. So we're going to grab the one we slipped, lift it up and over just like a bind off. And you can see that it's now decreased right in the middle. You need to add one more stitch in by yarning over, and then we continue on. So how we continue on is we just go with a knit two together, and then a yarn over, another knit two together, and a yarn over, and then a knit. Slip your stitch marker and do that again. I'm going to repeat this one more time because of the special stitch on this second repeat here, but on all the other rows, I am not going to complete the whole row past this stitch marker because I think you get the idea, and we'll only be working the first stitch repeat at the beginning of all the next several rows on the right side. All right, so let's continue this repeat here. So again, we're going to start with the repeat after the asterisk or after the red line on our chart. So we're going to yarn over, so you don't knit, and then we're going to slip, slip, knit. Okay. And then yarn over, slip, slip, knit. Yarn over, okay. Slip as if to knit. Knit two stitches together, pass the slip stitch over the knit two together, and that makes the decrease. Yarn over, and now knit two together, yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, and the last stitch is knit. All right, so continue working your seed stitch, work row 10. Pause your video. I'll meet you back up for row 11. See you soon. On row 11, or up to this point, your knitting should look about up to here, okay? So when we move on, instead of starting with the slip, slip, knit over here, we're actually starting with a knit two together, and it starts moving in the opposite direction. Okay, so it makes this sort of X shape. Once we add in our next repeat, so like this is rows 1 through 20, when we add in the next 20 rows, it pops up again and it becomes a diamond shape. So this actually forms the main pattern. It's just that you have 20 rows to get to this point, and then it repeats again, and by doing them end on end, it becomes this diamond shape that moves up and down. So we are going to work on this part on this row here. So here we go. We knit the first stitch, okay, and then after that asterisk part, that's where we knit 3. So we're knit 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now we're going to knit 2 together. So we knit 2 together and yarn over. And we're yarning over after the knit 2 together, just like we did on when we did them before. And then knit 1 stitch, and then we're going to flip it. We're going to yarn over and then slip, slip, knit. Slip, slip, knit. Okay, and then knit the last 4 before the stitch marker. And then you're going to repeat that again. So let me put the instructions on the screen, and you will knit 3 and then work your decreases and increases across. So you're not knitting 4 to begin, you're skipping that 1 before the asterisk, and you're just going to continue knitting the rest of the row and the wrong side row. Pause your video. I'll meet you back up for row 13. See you soon. All right, row 13, as you can see, it's very similar to 11. It's just moving those increases and decreases outward. So I've already knit the first stitch in my row before we started the video here, and we're going to knit the next 2 for that after that asterisk. Then we're going to knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 3 in the middle, because on the previous row we knit 1. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, and then now I yarn over, and then slip, slip, knit. Okay, and then 3. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and slip those stitch markers over, complete your row, pause your video. I'll meet you back up on 15. See you soon. We went on the last row, which was 13, and we went outward a little bit more. Now we're going outward more, and we're adding in 4 of these little holes at the bottom of this this diamond here. Okay, so we're going to add these 4 in. So it's still going outward, but we're adding in another set, just like we had in the very beginning down here. It's just an extra row. So the row after that, so 15 does this, and then it goes outward one more time in row 17, and then we'll start getting it smaller again. So I just want to cover what that looks like in the sample. So this is what it looks like. So it ends up getting bigger with more holes here, and then it gets narrower, and then this is more of a stockinette inside. All right, let's do that now. You've got your border. We're going to knit 1. Okay, now here's to the asterisk part. You're going to start your knit 1, then your knit 2 together, and yarn over. Then your knit 2 together, and then your yarn over, and then there's that middle stitch again, that knit, and then we do the slip slip knit, but before we do that we need an extra yarn over. So yarn over, slip, slip, knit, and then yarn over, and slip, slip, knit, followed by 2 knit stitches, and then repeat that pattern. Okay, all right, pause your video. I'll meet you back up for row 17. See you soon. All right, so row 17, knit that +1, starts the asterisk repeat, and that's knit 2, yarn over, and do it again, knit 2, yarn over, and then we knit 3 to make those get further out. All right, and then we do a yarn over, slip, slip, knit. Another yarn over, slip, slip, knit. And then that repeat ends with a knit 1. All right, continue the rest of your row in that stitch pattern. Pause your video and I'll meet you back up for the last of moving stitches. So the 19th row is where we're going to move stitches around. And then on row 20, I'm going to show you how to install a lifeline to help save your skin, save your knitting if you drop a stitch or need to go backward for any reason and don't want to try and figure out the patterning again. All right, pause your video. I will see you at row 19. See you soon. All right, on row 19, you're going to notice on the chart that there is an extension of the written part of the chart. So it looks like there's 12 more stitches to the side of that red line, and that's just showing you how it repeats. So you've already been doing that this whole time, but it's just showing it on row 19 just because. So we're going to continue on. Go ahead and start knitting that first stitch for that +1 on 19, and then we're going to knit 2 together. We're going to work our way to that special stitch, and it's going to be at the end of the row. So knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, and yarn over, and then knit 1, and that's going to be for that middle section. And then yarn over and knit, I'm sorry, slip, slip, knit. So we're going to slip, slip, and knit, and then yarn over, slip, slip, knit. Okay, and then we're actually going to yarn over again because we're going to do that special stitch that takes 3 stitches. So see where my stitch marker is? I actually have 3 stitches left. So there's going to be a yarn over on either side of where that decrease is. So we're going to slip this next stitch. That's the one we're going to pass over. Knit these next 2 together. Okay, and then grab that slip stitch and lift it up and over there. And now we have a decrease there. I'm going to slip that stitch marker, and we'll do that one more time on row 19. We're going to start with a knit 2 together, a yarn over, a knit 2 together, a yarn over, okay, a knit 1, yarn over, slip, slip, knit, yarn over, slip, slip, knit, okay. If you mess this up and you have to go backwards, I do want to show you how to fix it if you have to undo this stitch here. So I'm going to work this stitch, undo it, and redo it again. All right, so yarn over, slip the next stitch as if to knit, actually. So this is if I was to purl, and then in this way is to knit. So we're going to slip that stitch, then we knit the next 2 stitches together, all right? And then we're going to pass that slip stitch over, and before we move on, yarn over again, okay? If you have to redo that stitch, you have to undo it, and maybe you went back, you had forgotten a yarn over, whatever the reason, maybe you forgot this one, you're going to get rid of that yarn over in front of it. Notice this stitch is hanging in front, okay? It's easier to go ahead and lift it up and over and get it back onto the needle, and you can make sure that these place in the right way. This one popped right over right, but usually when I undo it, it kind of is on top of it, so you have to kind of move it with your needle, and then you can actually stick this needle in here. So say you slip, slip, knit instead of knit 2 together, you can actually stick your needle in and undo the stitch, and then they should be sitting in the right, actually this way is the wrong direction. This is good that it's doing this. No, this is in the right direction. So we want to make sure if you pull out this stitch, you can see that the right leg of the stitch is in the front of your needle, like that, okay? If they get twisted around, you did the wrong one, they could be twisted like this, and the left side is there. You'll have to undo both of them and twist them in the right direction, okay? All right, so I've still got this one slipped over. Let's continue. So I've got it slipped. Actually, let's slip it back, okay? Slip once as if to knit. Then we're going to knit 2 together. Pass the slip stitch over and yarn over. All right, and now slip your stitch marker over and continue the row by knitting 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, slip, slip, knit, yarn over, slip, slip, knit, and then we're going to slip this next stitch. Oh, whoops. See, I almost messed up. Yarn over, slip as if to knit, knit the 2 stitches together, okay, pass the slip stitch over, and then yarn over again. And then go ahead and slip over your stitch marker and complete your row, or if you're on the afghan already, go ahead and just keep repeating that. All right, I'm going to finish this row and show you what you should do before you move on. So when you're on a row that has some stitches like that, it's a good thing to come back and just count your stitches before you move on. That way you can just undo it right here. You can also count them in the sections and making sure they're 12. Just remember that first section is going to have 13 in it over here. All right, so go ahead and work your purl row. Okay, so your wrong side row, and then I'm going to show you how to put in a lifeline with some dental floss, so in case you do mess up and you need to go backwards, you can rip out your work and save it. All right, pause your video and I'll see you there. So knitting beautiful lace is really fun with these beautiful yarn overs and things, but what happens if you drop a stitch somewhere or you notice that you've got a mistake and you want to pull out your knitting and get back to a row that is good? Well, if you install a Lifeline, you'll be able to do that without any problem. If you don't have one, you can have a real mess on your hands. So I'm going to install a Lifeline in here and show you what to do. We want to put it on a row, like a purl row, or one that doesn't have any yarn overs. That way you don't have to deal with putting it through the yarn overs and getting confused. It is important that you put it on a row that is good. It's knit correctly. I'm using dental floss. You can use a cotton yarn or smooth yarn or thread. A contrasting color is good. And then your tapestry needle. All you need to do is go along and slip it in just as if you were transferring your stitches onto another needle. You can pull it in this way, like this, okay, all the way along. Or I have another little trick for you I'll put in the video right after this. We'll do a little bonus. Okay, so just go all along here. The main thing that you need to remember is when you go along here and you get to a stitch marker, do not put it through the stitch marker. All right, you're going to skip that stitch marker and go on to the next one. Okay, and then when you get on to the next row, it's very important when you start knitting to not knit this floss or this thread. You can pull it to the back when you're working your stitches, but don't work it into your stitch where it comes up on the needle like this and you get it trapped in. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of having a Lifeline. So continue going all the way through. You're going to keep about 4 or 5 inches of tail coming outside of it. You can make it longer and tie it together. And then if you have to take the Lifeline out, you can snip that and pull it right out. Another trick to installing a Lifeline is lining up the needle with your other needle and slipping the stitches all the way through and just running the needles again. So I've just got my needle here, my tapestry needle on top of my circular needle, and I'm slipping them. Notice when I got to a stitch marker, I bypassed the tapestry needle and I just kept it on the main needle. Otherwise, you're going to get your stitch marker caught up in your Lifeline. So you just continue going. I'll get to the end of the row and show you. It's just a bonus. Go all the way through, right? And then you just pull it. So this, because it's a circular needle, I don't have to pull the whole thing out. And now just pull this through here, and I have a Lifeline. After you've installed your Lifeline, it is a good idea to tuck it in to the back here. Now, I don't see people talk about that, but I found that this is a really nice way to make sure it doesn't get pulled out. So just tuck it into one of those purl stitches on the back or the front, it doesn't matter. And there we go. And now it's not going to go anywhere. So you're going to continue as established in the pattern, keeping the first and last stitches seed stitch and working the lace pattern over the center, 25 stitches for your swatch or 85 stitches for your afghan, until you've got 8 repeats of rows 1 through 20 of the lace pattern. So once you're done with that, you're going to work 5 rows in the seed stitch pattern, and then you're going to bind it off. So I don't think I need to show you how to do the seed stitch pattern because we've already covered that. You can just rewind and then bind it off. If you need a video on binding it off, you can click down below. Because this is not a beginner video or pattern, I think that you should be able to do that. So I'm not going to show that on camera today. And then you weave in your ends. Before you go though, let's go ahead and talk about why you would need to block lace. Blocking is actually very important. I have a video on blocking, which we will link to down below. So I want to go ahead and complete another set of rows for you and finish it off. And you can see what my swatch looks like. And I'll show it to you unblocked, and then I'll show it to you blocked. And I'll show you the reason why you need to block and also measure your gauge. And you get to see what it looks like before and after. So I think it's important. So please don't walk away from the video just yet. Let's see the ending. All right, pause your video and I will see you soon. Well, I have worked up my entire sample, and you can see I have left the Lifeline in here. It can be pulled out now, and I just wanted you to see what it looked like in there. Go ahead and take these out and slip it on out. Okay, so you can see that mine is not blocked yet. It has a little bit of a wonkiness to it. Once I get this blocked, it will open up these stitches just a little bit more. I have kind of pulled them open a little bit. And on lace knitting, you'll find, especially depending upon the yarn that you're using, it might not open up the stitches. Most lace needs to be blocked. I do have a video on that. So what you do is you get it wet and you pin block it out on a blocking board and then let it dry. And you can block it out to your desired width, but usually you don't want to overstretch it, but you do want to open up these stitches and make sure that they're very consistent. So you'll have to click on that link. Now that you've seen it not blocked, I want to go ahead and block it out for you. I've woven in my tails almost all the way. I'm going to clip them to where they're a little short. They're sticking out a little bit. And when I block them, that might work its way in, and then I'll trim off the remainder. So go ahead and block yours, and I'll block mine how I just said, and then we will see what this looks like after blocking. You'll be able to see the difference. All right, go ahead, pause your video. We'll be back with the final result. See you soon. Well, this is what my beautiful pattern looks like after I've blocked it. And I can tell that it has actually gotten a little bit bigger. I measured it before I blocked it, and I measured it afterward. You can see that the stitches have flattened out a little bit. I didn't over block it at all. It's not overstretched or anything like that. It retains its natural shape, but everything's smoothed out and lace work is open, which is what you want in a lace work. Now, I know from my measurements, I'll just share with you that it gained about 3/4 of an inch, so 0.75 inches across the width, and it actually got longer by about 1.5 inches, and that's just in the lace work. These outside borders didn't change at all. All right, so you can actually measure the inside here and take your actual stitch count in width and divide it by what you measured. So that will actually help you get how many stitches per inch you have. So I have 25 stitches across divided by what I measured, and I got how many stitches per inch. Then I multiply it times 4, and I got my stitches. I did the same thing with the rows. I had 40 rows divided by the height that I measured, which is 11, and I got this many rows times 4, so I've got 14.5. On the back of this sheet, it's actually the front of this sheet, I had written that the original gauge in the book was 8 stitches, and I got 9, and it was 13 rows, and I got 14 in a 4x4 swatch. So my numbers are the 9 by 14. If I wanted to get closer to those numbers, I could, because I have more stitches, I can actually make them bigger, which will give me less stitches, and I can dial it up and go to a US 13 needle instead of that 11 that I was working with. But I'm not going to do that. I'm happy with that number, and then I can just take some of these measurements and what I know about the repeats that we did, and I won't go into that because that would be a much longer video. Let me know if you guys want that, but I could give you a video on that. But basically, I came up with what my size would be based upon what I did on my swatch. And that is the benefit of swatches. So this is just a quick glance of how I came up with the sizing that I'm going to get. So I know that my project is going to be about 42 inches by about 46.5 inches total. And I know that I'm going to need about 7 skeins of it. I've got an interactive calculator on our website, which also helped me come up with that number. So if you'd like more of the resources down below, go click on that. We'll include them. And if we've forgotten something, please be sure and comment in the boxes below and let us know what you'd like to see. If you'd like to see more on how I measured this and came up with the size that I'll get, any calculations on swatches, and overall, just tell us what you thought about this class and video series. We hope you have a great day and happy lace knitting. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.